In our continuing series on getting the most out of your CRM investment. I'm Colin Newman with Technology Advisors. We are joined today by our partner Salesfusion to show you how to bring marketing and sales together in your CRM. I'd like to welcome our presenter Kevin Miller, who is the Vice President of Solution Strategy and B2B Marketing Automation Expert at Salesfusion. We'll have time to take questions at the end of the presentation, so please submit any questions or comments in the questions panel of your GoToWebinar screen. So at this point, I'll pass it over to Kevin Miller and the team from Salesfusion. Kevin, take it away.
Thank you, Colin. I appreciate it. We'll do a quick sound check, make sure everything's coming clear. Okay, if you don't mind, Colin.
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay, great. And appreciate the introduction. As Colin mentioned, my name is Kevin Miller. I head up a team at Salesfusion known as our Solution Strategy team. I've been with Salesfusion since day one and involved in marketing automation prior to that as well, really kind of since marketing automation kind of came onto the market little over 10 years ago. Definitely my pleasure to talk to everybody today, go through a little bit about some of the things that we're going to talk about. Today's session is really kind of about understanding how marketing automation can work with and complement CRM and really, how the dynamics of how people buy has changed quite a bit in the last 10 years. And some of the areas where CRM might not be the perfect fit for how individuals buy and move through the top of a funnel. Not to say that CRM doesn't do its job. It does its job fantastic for what it's designed to do. So we just want to talk about how these two systems can function together to overall improve how your company is performing, how your company is managing leads as they flow through your funnel from the top straight down through the opportunity stage. So firstly, we'll define a couple of things as we go through the session. And then when we get through the presentation portion of this, we'll flip over and open the product up and get into a little bit of product. I do understand that there are varying CRM systems that are in use by clients of Technology Advisors, so I didn't want to focus on one particular CRM system. So what we'll do is we'll chat a little bit about some of the key integration points between marketing automation and CRM. I think that would be useful to show in the product. So firstly, let's talk about traditional CRM. And what it's really designed to do. And frankly, when I talk about the differences between CRM and marketing automation, we usually talk about it from the perspective of the external constituents, the clients, the prospects, the partners. And what CRM is great at is managing sales activities and tasks, and managing a pipeline and a forecast, and managing the sales process. Not only just tracking opportunity stages, but managing an entire process. And then, of course, CRM was built around this notion of the 360-degree view of the customer, emphasis on customer, and it does a very good job, obviously, of managing post-sale client relationships, service, and support. So, in short, what I define what CRM is great at is managing the selling process. It's been built pretty much from day one to do just that. However, when we're dealing with marketing, we're not dealing with a selling process. We're actually dealing with something a little bit different than that. We're dealing with a buying process, which is part of the reason traditional CRM systems don't manage marketing particularly well. So we'll go through some of those points. First thing we want to do is talk a little bit about this notion of a buyer journey. What is it? What can we define it as? And what are the different steps through this buyer journey? A progression of steps that a buyer is going to take from the point where they do initial research to deeper evaluation, and finally vendor comparisons culminating in a purchase decision. And a significant percentage of a modern buyer's journey takes place online, self-paced, without any involvement whatsoever from your sales team. This is a relatively new concept, new in the sense of the last decade, and it's a direct result of the amount of content and channels online that are available to us as marketers today. Marketers have created almost a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that we push content out to the web, and in doing so, yes, we've made it a little bit easier for people to find us and engage with our content, but unfortunately what we've done is we've taken the traditional control that sales has had over that part of the sales cycle, and we've taken it out of their hands and given it over to the prospective buyers, which can be a scary thing. We shovel data and we shovel content into the web like shoveling coal in a furnace. We want to constantly stoke that content fire, but oftentimes we really don't have any sense of what's going on out there. And again, we've lost control of what we call the buy cycle. So marketing automation systems are really built to help us kind of maybe take some control back and help get sales engaged sooner in the buying process. So we'll talk a little bit about kind of this buyer journey. We'll break it down into a couple of areas and go into each one in a little bit of detail. Beginning at the bottom, working its way up, you have an awareness portion. And awareness is traditionally how do you get found by people. And awareness can be a lot of things. It can be, and it can be dealt with in a lot of different ways, everything from public relations to SEO and organic search, through pay-per-click, through being at trade shows, through having sales personnel with a good Rolodex of relationships. So there's a lot of ways that people can generate awareness about the company. Once people find you, then they're going to begin to gather information about you. And this is where a lot of the loss of control has come into play, and even the comparison stage. This is where people can go out and use not only your corporate website, but a multitude of other websites and channels and social sites to do information gathering about solutions that they're looking to purchase. And they can even go as far as doing direct comparison vendor over vendor. And again, Serious Decisions, which is an analyst firm that covers this space pretty in depth, did a study 2 years ago, I believe, maybe 3, where they talked about how 70% of a buy cycle is self-paced now. People are going through that completely self-paced. And they're only engaging, getting to that engagement portion with sales when they are ready. That's one of the reasons we've seen a drop in the effectiveness of cold calling and traditional sales engagement tactics, right? So working through this, engagement is the point at which that sales is involved. In many cases, and we don't want that. We want sales to be involved in the information gathering stage. The problem is that how do we engage people who don't want to be engaged with yet because they're working at their own pace? So there are some tricks to do that. And then finally, at the purchase decision phase, that's the contract negotiation. That's all the stuff that sales is doing to wrap a deal up. The modern B2B journey, it's basically a series of research points wherein the buyer consumes content, internally and externally. So, talking about CRM. CRM, again, some of these are going to be repetitive thoughts, but I want to drill these home. CRM is basically designed to manage and assist with the engagement and purchase decision. We talked about Serious Decisions. As much as 70% of that journey is going to be completed before they ever talk to a salesperson. And unless sales can engage earlier in this journey, they are going to operate at a bit of a disadvantage. CRM systems in the current state cannot help sales prior to the engagement stage. And when I say help, CRM is an input-driven system. There's nothing that CRM can output to the salesperson to help them at this stage. Okay, it's a huge gap in functional relevance of the product. Okay, so and that's why marketing automation systems have really kind of come on strong in the last few years, and integrating marketing automation with CRM systems is not a nice to have, frankly, anymore. It's a paramount project for many companies. The disconnected approach, sales is basically focused both in technology and their processes on managing engagement and purchase decision. Marketing is focused in both technology and programs on managing awareness, information gathering, and the comparison phases. And each is managing these in a mutually exclusive manner in many cases, in different databases with different technology. And sometimes marketing is doing it with 5 or 6 different technologies glued together with Excel, and not the least of which integrated into any sales process. The major problems can occur because of this. There's a lack of cohesive funnel. There's lost leads. There's bad metrics. Worst case scenario, there's lost sales. So when we get into marketing automation, so let's define the second half of this equation. The first half is the CRM. The second half is the marketing automation piece. Basically, it's a platform that allows you to create, manage, and track all lead gen programs and activity. It's also a BPM solution, business process management solution, which helps you manage the capture, scoring, and routing and management of lead flow. So much more so than simple email tools and landing page tools. There's all these great tools in there for marketers, but the real win with marketing automation is that it has workflow in it that's relevant to the CRM systems. And that's part of what we'll show you when we get to the end of the session today and we open up the product a bit. There's an analytics engine that's designed for tracking marketing spend related to sales opportunity value, lead to revenue management. You'll hear analysts like Forrester, when they put out a wave report in our category, us being Salesfusion in our category, it's not called marketing automation. It's actually called lead to revenue management wave. Gartner calls it CRM lead management. So it's kind of interesting the way the two main analysts in the space at Track Technology define marketing automation not as marketing automation at all. They define it as lead management, lead revenue management, okay, which is something interesting to think about. So what is marketing automation's relevance to sales? First of all, they're designed to manage the buyer journey by capturing and reacting to both explicit and implicit buyer touchpoints, and that's a really big difference. Explicit touchpoints are pretty easy to gather. They are the clicking of an email, the downloading of a white paper, the registration for a webinar. These are explicit things that are very easy to identify. The implicit touchpoints are extremely difficult to identify without having a marketing automation system. They are all of those non-campaign specific touchpoints on your website, on your social networks, etc. Those are the people fishing around. Those are the people doing deeper evaluations in your site. And what marketing automation systems do is they allow us to identify, group, and classify buyers based on these two types of touch points, implicit and explicit, and help us understand where they're at in their journey. And maps help encourage sales and buyer interactions earlier in the journey. And I'll talk very specifically about that in the product. That's a key thing. Marketing automation, I think a lot of folks had a misconception of what marketing automation was meant to do early on, especially with things like nurture programs. And I think people thought that nurture programs in particular were meant to be these, Skynet type automated robotic programs that just ran in the background and they activated when something happened and you didn't have to really think about them. There was a terrible term called set it and forget it. Any marketer that forgets about their program should be fired and find a new job. You should never forget about your program. So set it and forget it technology is a complete misnomer. The nurture programs that we design inside of Salesfusion are nurture programs that are explicitly designed to get salespeople on the phone with a prospect as quickly as possible. All right, so we want to be very clear about that. We're not trying to automate away human interaction. We're trying to automate and facilitate getting people on the phone with people. So keep that in the back of your mind as we work through this as well. So marketing automations also provide context to sales as to where a buyer may be, what they may be interested in. Okay, and how we do that is through what we call a buyer journey. A buyer journey view is like an iframe that sits inside of your CRM system, and when a lead comes through to a salesperson, they're basically able to go in there and see every interaction, every touch point from the website visits to survey completions and form completions and email opens and event registrations, et cetera, et cetera. So they're able to see all these interactions that the marketing automation system has harvested, and we present that to sales. So they have that relevance when they have that first touch point with a prospect. So digging into this a little bit deeper, let's understand these two funnels. And again, we're going to break it down a little bit simpler and talk about discover, evaluate, qualify, engage, and close. And I think most people would generically agree that this is a good representation of virtually any B2B sales funnel. Now, on one side of the fence, you've got marketing automation platforms. What should a marketing automation platform own from a technology point of view? It should absolutely own the discover and evaluation phases, meaning marketing automation systems are going to generate the campaigns that help you get discovered. And then we're going to syndicate content, relevant content to individuals so that they can evaluate whether or not we're the right fit. On a CRM side of the fence, CRM absolutely owns engage and close, which are clear processes managed in CRM. What they share is the qualification stage, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. So the different technologies that exist at the different stages. In Discover, we've got technologies that allow us to do email campaigns, landing pages, event management, social publishing, and public relations. That's the Discover. So that's the thing that marketers are most used to using these platforms to do, execute programs that bring people in and get them to find you. Then evaluation. We have tools that allow us to do lead nurture programs, which is looking at what people did in the Discover phase and then giving them more relevant content based on what we learned. So helping them evaluate by staying engaged with them with providing relevant content, that's a key piece. And we do that part and parcel to content marketing, but also using what we call the website visitor tracking, understanding what people are accessing on our site independent of any of these more discrete things that we mentioned up top. On the CRM side of the fence, engage, right? So what are we doing to engage with people? We've got our contact management, which has been around forever. We've got activity management, sales process management, and then at the close level, you've got your opportunity and your forecasting and your funnel management. Again, these are kind of root technologies inside of the CRM system, which are purpose-built to manage these critical parts of the buy cycle. So where we unify the two funnels, where we glue them both together, is with the qualification or the qualify stage. And this isn't just qualification from the perspective of a salesperson is going to qualify a lead. It's also making sure that the lead is qualifying us properly to make sure that we're giving the best pre-qualified leads over to sales. The technologies that we have available to us in the map for this stage is going to be lead scoring, lead routing, nurture programs. Okay, and we'll touch on those in a little bit more detail. So what does this look like in a little bit more easy to consume, digest, visualize workflow? The generic view of lead flow when marketing automation and CRM systems are connected very much looks like this, where you basically have marketing executing campaigns which are attempting to drive inbound traffic to your corporate website. At the end of the day, no matter what a marketer says, no matter how many fancy degrees they have, no matter how much they know about Twitter and how much they know about social networks and how much they know about retargeting, et cetera, all that basic knowledge is wonderful. You can always boil it down to something very simple. I want to get people on my website, period, end of story. No matter what we do, no matter how much money we spend, sooner or later I want somebody to come to my website. And what I want them to do more specifically is I want them to come to my website and engage with me with a lead capture form. I want them to fill out a form, raise their hand, and say, okay, I'm ready to talk. And we do that with obviously forms that are generated from the marketing automation system that are embedded directly into your website. Now, as we capture these folks' behavior, not every single one is ready to go immediately over to sales. So what we do is we watch them and we run them through lead scoring programs. And when they do get to a certain point, and we'll define what that point is a little bit later, then we're going to pass those leads over to CRM system. And that's through the connection and the synchronization between the two databases. We'll push those leads over. And then we may also do things like send email alerts or task generation inside of the CRM system to basically let sales know that they have a lead and they're encouraged to reach out to that lead. Now, of these leads, whatever the volume may be, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 50, maybe it's 1,000 in a given 30-day period, not all of them are going to pass muster, and not all of them are going to immediately convert to the last step, which is the opportunity stage. Okay. Now, the question is, the ones that don't convert, are they not converting because they're completely disqualified, in which case off they go into the recycle bin, or are they not converting because they're simply not ready to buy yet? And that's the most common scenario. And people will lie, and prospects will lie to you and say, no, I'm not ready to buy, it's going to be a year from now, et cetera. And they may be just telling you that to get a salesperson off their back. So you never really know 100%, except for the people that have fully qualified the ops stage. You still don't know. Let's say we pass 1,000 leads in a month, and let's say of those 50 go to opportunity stage, and 50 completely disqualify and fall out. They're never going to buy. So that leaves us with about 900 leads, and this would be a relatively robust lead flow, mind you, that we just don't 100% know what they're going to do or when they're going to do it. So the unfortunate thing in the past has been that sales will oftentimes, because of quotas and because of targets that they have to hit in short-term periods, will just walk away from those leads. And they're going to move on to the ones that are qualified and focus all their energy on that. And unfortunately, a lot of leads would leak out of the funnel that way. Now we recycle those leads back into the marketing automation platform, and that's where those automated programs kick in, and we stay in front of people with periodic communications, et cetera. And that's that whole essence of nurture marketing, which, again, is a big part of what we're going to show you when we get to the product demo portion of all this. This has dramatic effects on a company if it's left broken, because in most companies, it is broken. Right? I mean, at the end of the day, this is why marketing automation exists. More than anything else, it exists to fix what's up on this screen right now. So let me explain, what it is we're looking at. Firstly, you have to think about this at a very high level from the perspective of how do marketers think and then how do salespeople think. Marketers, from the day they take Marketing 101 in college to the day they go out and do their internship, and whether that's with a company or an agency or otherwise, it is beaten into a marketer's head from day one that they have to care about what's called reach. They want to reach the most people with their message for the least amount of money. Okay? At the end of the day, that's what every single marketer is trained to do from day one. It's why Super Bowl ads cost so much. It's why CPM is one of the most basic metrics in online marketing that somebody will track, cost per thousand. How much did it cost for 1,000 people to see this? So marketers are ingrained with this approach. They always want to generate as many leads as possible. Now, in the past, when a marketer does that and they generate a lot of leads and they push them into the CRM, typically through a CSV import, they wash their hands and they're done and they walk away. Because marketers aren't trained to think about success as revenue. They're trained to think about success as volume of clicks, volume of conversions, conversion rates, all these marketing metrics that the marketers have worshipped for years have very little to do with revenue and everything to do with activity. Okay, so we push and push and push a ton of leads over to the CRM system, and we put our hands up and we high five and we pat ourselves on the back and say we've done our job. We've pushed 1,000 leads into CRM, and I guarantee you, any marketer would be, that you polled, especially if you go back in time a little bit, would be very proud to say we've generated 1,000 downloads of a white paper. Here you go, sales. Now it's up to you to take control. So sales is a vastly different point of view of the world. Sales' view of the world is they only want to speak to somebody who has the capacity to buy their product or service. That's it. As nice as salespeople may be, as gregarious and as social as they are, at the end of the day, during the hours of 9 to 5, the only people they care to talk to are people that have the capacity to buy. Otherwise, you're just wasting their time. Especially, salespeople are commissioned salespeople. If I walk into a car dealership and I want to buy a bicycle, no salesman on that floor is going to want to talk to me because I don't have the capacity to buy a car. Plain and simple. Now, there's a major issue there. And the issue is that marketing is pumping in all these leads without any knowledge of capacity to buy. Sales has to sit there and look at that list and try to figure out, usually with gut feel and some inherent intelligence of past interactions maybe they have with these companies. This person can buy, that person can buy, this company I've sold to before, this company is a good prospect. There's a lot of subjective gut feel that goes into it. Now, as any plumber will tell you, when a drain clogs, it will leak eventually. And that's basically what happens here, and that's why we turn this on its side. As leads jam up at the desire stage, right, and sales is cherry picking, there are leads in there that are interested, and we just don't know because we haven't guessed right. Sales isn't guessed right yet. So leads leak out the bottom. Money leaks out the bottom. Revenue for your company leaks out the bottom. And this is a major, major, major problem. Every company that I've ever interacted with over the last 12, 13 years that's interested in marketing automation, in some level or another, is trying to solve this problem. Okay. They're not looking for a better email tool. Email tools, by and large, are fairly consistent in what they do. They're not looking for a new landing page designer. At the end of the day, it's really that hard to build a landing page? No, not really. They're looking to fix this leak. Okay, and unfortunately, most of the lower-end email tools and all these other smaller little marketing gadgets that we've been using for years don't connect to CRM and don't have any BPM as part of them, so they can't fix that. All they could do is execute and drive reach. They don't do the back end of what marketing is supposed to do, which is lead to revenue management. Okay. Most common challenges that we face with CRM systems today in standalone environment, adoption after all these years, CRM is still a system that requires data input to work, right? So I haven't met a lot of salespeople which just say, gosh, I just love logging into my CRM system. It gets me really excited and I know it's going to help me close a deal. No, salespeople need to log into their CRM systems because their sales management needs to track the pipeline and report that to the C-level people who have to report it to the board. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Now, there's certainly things in there from a standpoint of sales support, meaning like I track my activities, I can have, manage a calendar of activities and do all those things that salespeople absolutely need to do, which frankly they used to do in Franklin planners years ago. But at the end of the day, if you talk to most salespeople, they will tell you that a CRM system is something that they need to feed. It does not feed them. And all processes in CRM are organized around post-qualification activities. We manage what we call the known. The things that we know about. We know this prospect is qualified. We know, what their actions and activities are. We know a lot about the people that are in our CRM system, and we're calling on them and talking to them, etc. But all that stuff typically happens post-qualification. CRM helps sales organize, but does not address the support third of the new lead to sales funnel. So, how can marketing automation help? What are the things that marketing automation systems can do to improve upon this? Firstly, identification. We have email, we have lead capture pages, which contain script on them, which place a first-party cookie on the machine of the person that's interacting. So I send out an email campaign, and then I basically click cookie, and then I know when you come to my website. Persistent cookie. It's going to track what we call downstream web activity. Okay, so you have two types of activity. You have the activity which occurs within 48 hours of somebody receiving an email campaign from you. They open, they click, they download, they go check your site out for a little bit, and then off they go, they're gone. That information is useful, and it's interesting, and it's part of the original mentality of reach. What it's not telling you is what happens after the fact, which is actually the more important pieces of data. With marketing automation, we know what happens after the fact. We know that that person 4 days after they clicked through that email came back and they spent 30 minutes on your resource center or your website. That secondary quote-unquote downstream data is so much more valuable than the open and the click data. Marketers understand that now. Marketers that have been using marketing automation are beginning to get that. That's the information that really matters, not the opens or the clicks. Those matter to an extent, but at a very rudimentary level. The data that matters is the data of things that happen after the campaign. We also create alerts. Very simple. We send sales an email when a leader contact that's assigned to them has web activity. We're telling the salespeople, so-and-so's on your website. Here's how they came to your website. Here's why they're on your website. And here's what they did when they came to your website. These alerts encourage sales to connect with leads and prospects earlier on in the sales cycle. If we can identify people early on through our outbound activities, cookie them, and then figure out what they're doing on the website more quickly, we can then encourage sales to reach out to those people and engage with those people sooner. Classify. Leads, we're going to classify them into different groups based on two things, demographic information and activity, both implicit and explicit. And again, explicit activity is the opens and the clicks. Implicit is those downstream web behaviors. Leads are categorized into buckets, which in turn will trigger alerts, lead nurturing, lead routing, all these fun, cool BPM-style things that the marketing automation systems bring to bear. Leads are assigned to sales in CRM, and marketing ensures timely assignment to the right people. We want to get the right leads in front of the right people at the right time, sooner the better, if possible. Nurturing. Leads that are not ready for sales engagement are going to be nurtured through automated programs. The leads that are passed to sales too soon can be recycled back into marketing automatically for further nurturing. Lead nurturing is fully automated, and it will take the guesswork of how to manage early stage leads. If we think back, and you may think this is a bold statement, but it's actually not. When implemented properly, when integrated with CRM properly, we don't reduce this. We completely, categorically eliminate it with marketing automation. We simply eliminate it. It goes away. So it's nice to be able to sit here from a vendor's point of view and say that with absolute certainty, as I've seen it over and over and over and over again. When it's done correctly, we will eliminate any lead leakage from the company altogether. Accountability. Marketing and sales, sure people have heard, they're the Hatfields and the McCoys. They have had an ongoing feud for many, many years. If you ask marketing what the problem is, sales stinks because they don't follow up in time with my leads. If you ask sales, marketing stinks because they hand me junk for leads. I mean, that has been going on forever. Marketing automation takes that away from an organization. It completely removes that because the accountability that's baked into the marketing automation systems goes both ways. There's no hiding anything in marketing automation. There's no way to blame so-and-so. You know the leads are coming through the lead scoring model, or the leads that should come through, because guess what? Both marketing and sales have to write the lead scoring model. It can't be one way. We track leads straight to opportunity stage. Marketing can no longer say what's happening to all my leads once they go to CRM. They have real-time visibility into what's going on. Sales can't just point the finger and say these leads stink. They can actually say our conversion rate on leads is 0.001%. So guess what, marketing? We need to go back and we need to rethink where we're advertising or how we're doing lead acquisition, because the ones you're sending us are simply not converting to opportunity. The marketing automation system enables marketing and sales to share accountability for the entire funnel, not just pieces of it. Today, it's managed in pieces, and that leaves room for finger pointing and blame and subjective opinions about whose fault this is or whose fault that is. We simply eliminate that with marketing automation, and that makes for such a better, well-run organization. So what I want to do is I want to switch gears here for a second, and I'm going to go ahead and go into my application. And I want to show you what I mean by a couple of concepts we've talked about. Now, firstly, to be clear, marketing automation systems should exist outside of the CRM system, period, end of story. There are certain CRM systems that have some tools that are built inside of them natively. Not the route to go. Marketers like to work in systems that are built by marketers for marketers, that they think the way a marketer thinks. And a system like Salesfusion, a marketing and automation platform, is built to think the way a marketer thinks. It's been built by marketers. It's practically been built by our customers over the course of the last 6 years. The things that are in here are very relevant to a marketer. So, coming into the system, I'll just give you a quick nickel tour of what is in Salesfusion so you know the reference points. It's a platform, and inside of this platform there's various different functional components to it. So the functional components in Salesfusion, first of all, are the marketing component. And this is where we go out and we figure out who we want to mail. You know, we've got our lists and our segments. We figure out the content of those programs, whether that's email templates or landing page templates. Then we have the different types of email campaigns we can execute: bulk, drip, trigger, nurture, lots of different types of ways we can communicate. So you've got the messaging, then you have the destination for those messages, which is typically landing pages and forms. We have an event management component. Events are a critical marketing channel for many, whether those are webinars, seminars, lunch and learns, trade shows. We've gone further than most marketing automation systems out there today, except for the really big, gigantic, expensive ones, and have built a great event management platform that allows you to manage both physical and online events. There is the website visitor tracking component. This is figuring out who's on your website. And then finally, there's a lead scoring and lead management component to it called Lead Analyzer. Now, before I go into a couple of examples, I will toot our horn and say that Salesfusion is vastly different than a lot of marketing automation systems in the sense that we are built on top of a traditional CRM database ourselves. We are, in essence, a CRM database. We don't sell our product as a CRM system. We don't wish to compete with CRM systems, but we have the same exact database that you would find in Dynamics, in Infor, in Salesforce. We have leads, contacts, accounts, opportunities, tasks, and all the different interrelationships in a star schema that they have. And that's important because when we want to do things from a workflow standpoint in our system, it helps the fact that we have a virtual mirror image of your CRM database created inside of Salesfusion. And what does that mean from a business point of view? So I'll give you a great example of that. Nurture marketing is by far the most popular feature function of a marketing automation system. It's one of those things that, you know, every marketer is saying, well, why are you looking at marketing automation? Well, we want to do nurture marketing. Okay, and this comes up time and time again. So a lot of the nurture marketing programs are either Visio or tree-based. So ours is a tree-based designer. Okay, and in this tree-based designer, you can go in and create essentially workflow of communications. Now, I want to be clear about this. Salesfusion's definition of nurture marketing, our flag that we put in the ground and say we stick by this, is that nurture marketing programs are a hybrid of both marketing and sales activities in the same program. Otherwise, if you take away the sales activities, it's just a fancy drip campaign. So, again, I'm going to state that again. It's a hybrid between marketing and sales actions. Nurture programs don't work in a vacuum, independent of sales. They have to work with sales. So let me give you the best example of this. In this example, what we're doing with the nurture program is we're basically telling Salesfusion, go out to the CRM system every 15 minutes and find me in the contacts table or the leads table when the status field, and here's all the fields in the CRM system. So I'm looking for, let's say, lead status in particular, when that equals the word nurture. And nurture is derived from the drop-down values in the CRM system. So a salesperson simply has to know that, hey, if I leave 5 voicemails and I'm not getting anywhere, let me change the status to nurture, and then I can move on and comfortably know that marketing, quote-unquote, owns this lead again. So they change it. We look for it. We find it. When we find a lead that meets that criteria, now I can start to say, okay, the answer to that question is yes, so let's send them an email campaign. And then you begin the process of messaging, and you begin the process of communicating with them, which is great. And that's really not that groundbreaking. Systems have been doing that for quite a while, actually. We've done it with segmentation before. Now we do it with kind of a ping or a question or workflow rule. Where it gets interesting, though, is now I can start to do things like say, well, did they open the email? Did they click the email? Did they click a particular link and download something in the email? Did they go out to a website? So I can start to ask questions of what the respondent did. And if the answer to the question is, let's say, yes, then I could do some interesting things in CRM. Like, for example, I could create a task inside of your CRM system. And that task would basically be assigned to the rep who owns this lead in CRM. So what's basically happening now is that, the example I'll give is the tennis match, right? So marketing hits it over the net, sales hits it back, marketing hits it back, sales hits it back. It's kind of a back and forth to maximize what we should be doing with these leads in the first place, which is giving them absolute maximum exposure to pre-qualify them. So rather than just leave 5 voicemails and give up, now I'm leaving 4 voicemails, and I'm starting to put them down a highly relevant targeted communication stream. And each time that person has an interaction, I ping sales and say, oh, your lead had an interaction. I can even send an email through an alert and say, okay, sales, now your lead got active again. They just did something interesting. You should try to call them. And it's this back and forth that goes on between marketing and sales that is the essence of nurture programs. It's that maximizing the touch points with the prospect that is so valuable. The results of these programs, just to throw out statistics that anecdotally I know from the past, are when you get past the first email of one of these campaigns, you're dealing with 50% open rates. 50% of the people are opening and clicking through these programs. So they're very high touch, high interaction. And again, you're typically going at this from the perspective of very good, valuable, meaningful content, educational content. So you're the expert, and you're trying to stay in front of these prospects. They're not technically difficult to build. The difficult part of these programs is aligning your sales and marketing teams from a conceptual point of view. Getting everybody to sit around the table and say, okay, well, here's the 5-step nurture program that we're going to do. Let's agree upon when that lead should get kicked back to marketing. Let's agree on at what point we should then alert sales back to make an outreach call. So that part is really independent of the technology, and it's really just meant, it's just more process re-engineering that has to happen in a lot of companies, because obviously they're not used to doing these types of things. They're used to operating in a funnel, and they're used to pointing fingers and throwing rocks over the fence at marketing and sales, etc. So getting that fixed is not exactly simple, and but it's key, because if you can make the processes work with the platform that's up on the screen right now, you could do some very meaningful and amazing things at your organization in terms of how you manage leads and optimize and really drive revenue for your companies. So I want to pause there and see if there are any questions. I could certainly react to some questions from a product point of view, but I like to keep these sessions relatively quick as we can, 40, 45 minutes, so I think we're a little bit after the 40-minute mark here. So I wanted to just pause here and see if there's any questions on the floor that I'll be happy to field, and we'll flip on back here and also give you some touch points in how you can continue to interact with Salesfusion and follow some of our content online, etc. So, Colin, I'll pass back to you, and then we'll happily sit here and field some questions if they come in.
So if there's anyone that would like to ask any questions, could you please just go ahead and drop them into the questions section of the chat box, and we'll address them there. One question, Kevin, is how long does it take to implement into CRM?
Yeah, it's actually a good question. From a technical point of view, it's really you're looking at a couple of hours work tops. The systems like Salesfusion, for example, let me go over here, and that's a good one because I can actually show some of this if I can get out of that browser, is we've built direct integrations into all the CRM systems that we communicate with. So when you come into our admin, for example, you have different CRM platforms that we connect to. So I'll just randomly pick Microsoft, for example. So when you open up the Dynamics integration, there's two things that work. First of all, there's a file that you install obviously inside of your CRM, and then inside of Salesfusion you do some configuration which you're telling the systems how we want to pull data and then how we want to push data back and forth between the two systems. That process on our side is 30 minutes. The process of installation inside of the CRM, 45 minutes to an hour. And then testing and validation, making sure data is going where it needs to go. That's just more, more testing than actual work.
Awesome, thank you. And then just one more so far, and that is, who are the primary users of marketing automation?
Great question. The primary users of marketing automation are going to be the marketers. In fact, we don't have the notion of user licenses inside of Salesfusion. We have users in the system, but we don't license by user. So you usually have a relatively small group of direct logging in type users to Salesfusion, but then everybody within the CRM system would have complete access to the app. And one of the things that I can show you, if you just give me one sec here, is I'll jump into my drive real quick and we'll open up a couple of examples here, is what then shows inside of the CRM systems, right? So inside of the CRM, so we'll open up, since I used the example of Dynamics, I'll open up Microsoft here real quick, and we'll be able to show you what the salespeople see, or I should say anybody with the CRM license can see. So let me go down here. And inside of, for example, Microsoft, and this is universal across our CRM systems. This is Microsoft, Sugar, Infor, Salesforce, etc. When you're at a record, you can open a record up and you can see an entire history or journey that a person has had with you, and these are typically all their touch points. And you could see that by chronological list. You could see that in a graphical format of what they're doing. Here you can look at emails, landing pages, web hits, events. So you're getting to see everything somebody did, their lead score and why they scored to a certain level. So you're able to go in and see all these persons' interactions over time, and anybody with a CRM license can see that. You don't need to be a paid registered user of Salesfusion. When we connect into the CRM of record, everybody can have access to it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I think those are all the questions for now.
Great. Well, before I pass back to Colin, we sign off. I just want to thank everybody for giving us 45 minutes of your lives today. I hope you found it interesting, helpful, instructive, thought-provoking. Maybe go back and start to think about how you could potentially apply this at your organization. And if any questions come up after the fact that you don't think of, you could certainly filter them through Colin, and he'll get them to us, and we'd be happy to respond.
Great. Thank you very much to Kevin and Marissa and this team from Salesfusion. And thank you again to our audience for joining us today. We will be getting the recording of today's presentation out to you probably sometime tomorrow, so look for that if you wanted to review or share with anyone in your organization. So thanks again. We hope you'll join us next month in our continuing series on getting the most out of your CRM investment. And thanks again to the team from Salesfusion. All right, everybody, have a great day.
Yep, we appreciate it.
Thank you.